All right. So welcome everybody to the next episode on SAP UI5 and Fiori training. In the last episode, we discussed about the concepts of creating our HTML5 pages for the first time. And now in today's episode, we'll just go ahead and discuss about CSS, Cascading Style Sheet. So what is Cascading Style Sheet? How can we use Cascading Style Sheet to create new content in the system? And how can we beautify our HTML content with cascading style sheet? So let's talk about what is CSS and the purpose of CSS. So CSS, as I mentioned already in the last class, the definition stands for cascading style sheet. It is used to style HTML content. Style as in, what do we mean by style? We mean by style as bringing beautification to the HTML content. That's what CSS will do for us. Now, in the last class, when we saw that we were running our application, it was bringing a very raw form of HTML, very raw form of HTML without any formatting, without any styling. It was more or less a black and white page. There was no coloring, there was no formatting, there was no adjustment on the screen sizing. It was almost, looking very raw form. Yeah. So how do we bring a kind of beautification to this page? And that's what is possible with the help of cascading style sheet. Now, before CSS, what used to happen if I want to style my content? Now, take an example. If I have a paragraph which says, I love India. So this is my paragraph, for example. And if I want to style this content in my HTML, we used to use tags. So for example, if I want to highlight India, I would probably go ahead and add here a bold tag like this. And if I want to make love into red color, I have to use color tag with a value property is red like this. And then of course encapsulate this here, the color. And if I want also the love to be in emphasize mode, then I have to also put an EM tag along with it. And if I want to also change the font for India, then I have to also use the font tag with the value property as, let's say, Calibri. So I have to change the font to Calibri. And that's how I have to make sure that the font value is changed with the ending tag encapsulating India. So now if you look at this piece of code, I had just hardly 3 words in this sentence, I love India. And being in this sentence, just being 3 words, can you imagine how complicated this HTML has become? So over a period of time for writing these HTML with style code together becomes so complex, and it became a nightmare for our developers. The developers used to think, oh my God, how difficult it is to understand this piece of code. And also the maintenance become very expensive because you have everything nested together with the actual tag. So your actual tag is p tag, and then there is a lot of overburden of these extra tags, and this become a nightmare for maintaining the HTML in the past. And that's when the CSS was introduced. CSS helps you to style the content in much better way. So what are all the ways we can apply the CSS? So ways to apply CSS. This is very important interview question. Please note it's an interview question. Ways to apply CSS. First is called inline style. Second is called internal style. And third is called external style. These are all the 3 ways to apply CSS. So what is inline style? Inline style where the CSS code is applied at the UI element level, at the HTML element level. This is where the CSS code gets applied. So you are actually doing it at element level, but not like this, not like what we used to do with the tags. So still it is done at the element level, the single element level, but not precisely in the form of tag. Rather, we use a style property at element level with below syntax. The syntax is your whatever tag name, and then you have a style property equals to, in this you will have property name, property value, semicolon, property name, property value, semicolon, property name, property value. Like this, you will have the complete tag name and end of tag name. This is exactly how inline style looks like. Okay, inline style looks like. So you will basically be using a style property at this level, tag level, and then you will be applying it. So let's go to the system and experience it for the first time. Now, once again, a question which may raise up in your mind that, Anubhav, where can we see the documentation of all the style properties? These properties, where can we see them and their proposed values? Anyone? Can you guess? Where can you find and see all the proposed values of these? Anybody? What do you think? Where can we see all the proposed values? You can answer in the chat window. Yes, exactly. Perfect answer. It's W3C schools. So in the W3C schools is where we can actually go ahead and check all the possible values. So if I can go to W3C schools once again, you will find there are tutorials also dedicated on CSS. So now if I come to CSS, this is where you can go and check all the available possible properties which can be used with the CSS. Everyone, are you clear? This is where you can exactly go ahead and see all the possible properties for the CSS. Yes, correct. So that's where you can actually always see that. So here you can see, a lot of these properties. But again, I would repeat the same thing. Whatever I am teaching is more than sufficient. Yes, guys. Whatever I am teaching to all of you is more than sufficient to be able to learn the concepts of CSS, because our purpose is to not become a website developer. Our purpose is to become a UI5 developer. So more than what is covered in this course itself to become an expert on CSS. Let's come back and see an experience. So now what I want to do is I want to change the background color of entire page. How can I achieve that? I can go back and we'll apply an inline CSS. So maybe I just create another file altogether. I don't want to disrupt the current file, and we'll create altogether a different project. Okay, so that's what I want to do. So let me go back and maybe I just make a copy of this welcome HTML and paste it once again. So Control C and Control V again. And now it's asking me what is the new name. So I say CSS chapter. I say okay. I go to CSS chapter and I'll just leave these blocks which we created, and maybe we just come down a little bit, and let's also remove all of this, and we'll also complete the last exercise, which was personal details I asked you to do. So you can say form, and then inside this form you can have a div element and encapsulate your multiple label tag and input tag. So please mute your line. It's disturbing the class. All right. And now we can have here personal detail like first name, can have the last name, you can have the street, and then we can have the landmark next to that, and then we can have the city, and then we can have country and contact number. So that was also your exercise of the last class, country and contact number. So this contact number will be of type a number only, because contact numbers are always number. So this is all our data, easy. So now we got this particular thing, and maybe also I just put an heading 3 tag over here, say personal details. And let's run this one. So now I'm going to right click and say run configuration. And of course, now we have to run this new file which we created, demo CSS. So let's come here, minimize the screen a little bit so you can see this drop down, CSS chapter, and say save and run. So that's our CSS page. So just almost the same. And I'm going to go back here and just come here. Fantastic. Look at this. Personal detail is coming below. I want to remove this image also. So let me make it a little cleaner. I'm going to go back and say bye-bye to this image. Make my screen a little bit more maximized so you can see the code a little better. All right, let's come back. So now we got these, of course, last time the boxes, and we got this personal detail. That's fine. But now I want to change the background color of this page. How do I do that? Very easy. The whole content is represented by the body. So simply go to body, and now you just place here style tag. This is called inline style, guys. Okay, inline style. And I'm going to come inside and we'll say background equals to aqua. Now here don't put equals to, this is the colon symbol, you have to put it. Remember, symbols will break you or make you. Very important, it's a colon symbol. So this is called colon and this is called semicolon, right? This is semicolon, this is colon. Be careful with them. Okay, so colon, and I can save this. So we have got a style tag kept at here, background aqua. I'm going to come back, refresh. Voila, there you go. You can see the whole page background color has been changed to aqua. Fantastic. Look at that, guys. Amazing, isn't it? So now, what next? What next? So we can come back and we can now see, I want to change the color for these headings. What is CSS? What is JS? What is HTML? I want to change the color. So I can come back and I will say, hey, for this H4, this gentleman, I want my style to be keep as color red. Please make it red. And I'm going to go back and make it red everywhere for all the three headings, for CSS, for JS. I just save this, refresh, and now you will see this will turn into red. So this red, this red, this red, all three turn into red now. Fantastic. Now guys, question to all of you. What do you think tomorrow my manager come and say, Anubhav, instead of these three becoming red, I want them to be blue. Anybody, what do you think, how many places we have to make the change in order to make this red to blue? Who will tell me? How many places we have to make this change to make this title from red to blue? How many places we have to make the change to make it exactly 3 places? 1, 2, and 3. And you can see it's coming from here, this coming from here, and this coming from here. I hope you are all with me. This one, and this one. We have to make changes from all these 3 actually. That's what exactly we have to do. Now this is really a big problem. Yeah, it causes or invites lots of maintenance, right? And that's where the internal CSS was introduced. Exactly. That's where the internal CSS was introduced, because this invites lots of maintenance for us. This is heavy maintenance. All right. So now I'm going to go back and I'll show you how can we use the same thing with internal CSS, but with less maintenance. So in the current case, we have to make changes at 3 places, 1, 2, 3 places to make the change color from red to blue. Now I'm going to come back and introduce internal CSS. Internal CSS is one of the best way to apply CSS, where the CSS code is written at page level in the header. Exactly. It's written at the page level in the header. So you will have a heading tag. Under that, the CSS code will be written. Page level in the header. Okay. Page level in the header. The CSS code will be written at the page level in the header, in the heading tag, using a new tag called style. In this tag, you will write the syntax is on next slide. So let me show you the syntax for this gentleman on the next slide. So what is the syntax for internal CSS? Very easy. Trust me, it's very, very easy. In the syntax of internal CSS, it's called selector space curly braces. And under that curly braces, you will keep writing property name, property value, semicolon, property name, property value, semicolon, property name, property value, semicolon. Like this, you keep giving your properties one by one. That's called internal CSS, guys. Okay, that's called internal CSS, cascading style sheet. This will be written under a style tag in the header typically. So you can write that like this under a style tag. You can write as many as you want. I'll show you that. As many as you want, you can write them over here actually. Perfect. Let's go ahead and experience this one now in the system, live in action. I'm going to go back and I'll just go back here, go on the top, and in the header here we will just say style tag. Under that we're going to write this. So what I'll do is I will say here all my H4 tags will be applied here. Okay, or for all the H4 tags. Let's make this guy also as H4 because that then it looks same. Okay, so I will say here. Okay, now coming back to the syntax in the selector, when you see this selector, what is a selector here? So selector identifies the target element or elements. It can be one element or it can be multiple element. So if you give selector as tag name, all the elements with that tag name will be affected by the style. Now, if you give class name, then of course all the elements who has the same class name will be affected. If you give ID, then only the element, you remember yesterday I taught you about ID, only the element which has this ID will be affected. So this is how you give the selector. So tag name, class name, ID. But now there's a catch. Let me take an example quickly. So in this example, let's say you have created two elements. One is H3 element, or maybe let's say you created HT element. Welcome to CSS. You have created this H3 element. Now I want to apply a style in internal style using this internal style syntax on this element, H3 element. Its tag name is H3. So I can simply go back, no problem, style and end of style tag, of course. That's an internal style at a page level. And I can say H3, all the H3, please. All the H3, wherever in this H3, you have the color as red, please make the change. Okay. Wherever you have color as red, please make the color as red, which is fine. Perfect. But now guess what? If I put class name by mistake as H3, let me ask you guys in this room, what do you think will now happen? Will this H3 be considered as a tag name or will this H3 be considered as a class name? And maybe let's say you have an H5 and which has a class name as H3. So what do you think? I just say hello. Yeah, H5. What do you think? Will H5 be affected or not? When I say H3 color is red, what do you think? Will it change this first H3 or will it change the second one? So just answer one or two, or one and two. You can say one, only two, or one and two both. So most of the people saying both will get affected. Some people says only first one will get affected. Let me tell you the right answer. It's only this first one. Why? Because system consider this gentleman as a tag name all the time. But then what about if I want to affect the second one? Anyone? What about if I want to affect second one? In that case, you see there's a unique class name H3. So you have to give class name over here. But how will the system know that H3 is a class name, right? System will not know. So we have to just put a dot before this. The moment you put a dot, the system will be informed saying that, hey, wait, H3 is not be considered as a tag name. Please consider H3 as a class name. So wherever you encounter, system encounter a dot, it will ignore, it will abandon this H3 as a tag name. Rather, it will search for H3 as a class name. Everybody, are you clear? How to change a selector to attach to a class name rather than a tag name. Just put a dot. System will be scanning only the classes. System won't scan H3 for this. Similarly, for ID, it's hashtag. So when you're specifying selector, put a dot before class name, and for ID, put a hashtag, which means now it will only check the element with this ID, because you put a hashtag. That's a symbol which is telling the system, hey, only look for the hashtag IDs. Okay. Only three types of selectors we have, which we have already pointed out here. One is a tag name, another class name, and then we have ID. Only three of them are there. Okay, which we had put already. So let's go to the system and we'll see this. Okay, don't panic. Let's see this in the system in action. Okay, we'll understand that in a second. Now I'm going to go back. Now what I'll do is, first of all, I'll just say I want to change my all H4. Yeah. So this is my HTML, CSS, and JS. They are all H4. They are one thing in common, H4. And I will remove this bye-bye. I'll say bye-bye to the style at inline level. Bye-bye, 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 bye-bye. I say bye-bye to all of that. And I'll just go back on the top and I'll say H4, curly braces. And I'll say, please change the color to blue. Yeah. And I'm going to come back and refresh now. Let's experience it. Let's experience. So now I come back and you will see all my H4 got turned into blue. Fantastic. Now tomorrow my manager comes and say, Anubhav, I want it to be pink color. So what do you think now? This time, how many places you have to make the change to bring it in the pink color? Anybody? Exactly. Perfect answer. Reduce one maintenance. You have got a reduced maintenance, correct guys? Have you all understood the concept of inline CSS? So now all three of them are because of this guy, single guy. So you have to just make a change at one place. It's a reduced maintenance, easy to maintain, and the style code is also separated out. In programming, we always think about separating the code, right? We just make sure that we separate the actual code, application code, and the style and all the beautification code. So you've got a beautification code separated out also. That's also better modularization, better maintenance. But hey, there is a catch. Now, due to this H4, my personal detail also got affected. This also turned into blue. My manager did not expect it. He didn't tell me to take this one as blue. Why did this got affected? Why did this got affected? This got affected, reason being because this is also having same tag name H4, right? So what do I do to make sure that my H4, which is personal details, should never ever get affected? Should never ever get affected. This guy should never affect. Now, one thing in common in all of them, if you observe the ones which are these ones, we have got a family. Family will protect you. If you observe this box title family, Personal detail is not part of the family, right? Do you understand that, everybody? We want to target these guys, only these guys. And if you observe carefully, these guys have same family. That's why we put family before. Yeah, we put a class name above this, but personal detail doesn't belong to that family. So we have a classification already given here. So we can just use this classification box hyphen title, the class name, and we can go back on the top and say, hey, bye-bye to H4 and say dot box title. Everybody, is this part clear to everybody in the room? Are you clear or not here? What I did, I put the class name this time. And of course, when a class name is kept, has to put a dot before this. And then you just put the class name. And that's it. We have got now attached to the family, not to the tag name. This is the best way of doing style. That's why div tag with a class name is very oftenly used across all the websites, because that's where it will help you to organize, not just organize your content, but also give a styling to the content unified way. So now you will watch, I will refresh, this personal detail styling will go away. It will only affect the family elements. I refresh, and that's your perfect solution, what your manager was expecting. Everybody, line by line, no copy paste of code. I hope you're clear how to apply style based on class name on exact element level. On an exact element level. Perfect, superb. Will system allow duplicate style names? Of course you can do that. That means you cannot make changes to all three tag, class, ID at same time. Yes, you cannot make all three at same time. How can this particular text can become blue and red together? Can it become blue and red together? You cannot, right? It cannot become blue and red together. It cannot, right? It has to be only one. Yet, still you can go back and do an inline style. Inline style will take more priority as compared to this one. As compared to the internal style, inline style will take more priority. So if I go ahead and also put an inline style by any chance at this level, I say inline style is equals to color pink. Now in this case, this will take more precedence as compared to, so first it will apply internal style, it will become blue, but the moment it encounter this inline style, it will become more effective. So inline style is more priority. You see, it turned into pink because inline style is more priority than the internal style. Okay, this is an interview question also, internal or inline. Okay, so that was about using the internal style. So now let's go into the system and we will see some more powerful examples with applying this style. Okay, let's go ahead and see how powerful it can become. So maybe I will now go back and I want to change the width of these texts below, right? These texts, I want to change the width. So you see all of these texts belongs to same family again, box content. Yeah. So we'll go by class name again, box content. They all three belongs to box content. So let's go back on the top and I'll say, hey, my class name based style, box hyphen content is my class name, curly braces. And I will say width property. And we can say the width of this is, let's say, 150 pixels. Let's save and refresh. And wow, you see how beautiful it looks. Wow, fantastic. Yeah. And now maybe I want to get a border around. Let me get a border around all of them. So I say border property, 1 pixel solid. I just get the border around the box content. 1 pixel, sorry, border property, 1 pixel solid black. And I just come back and refresh. So now you will see, you will get a beautiful border around these boxes, which got. Sorry, please mute your line. We'll take up the questions at the end. Okay, so box content, we have got a width and we've got a border, 1 pixel solid black. So now what I'm going to do is, what I will do, I will just go ahead and change this width of the border as 10 pixels. And you see what happens. Come back. And there you go. You see now it is, width is increased. Now this solid border, you can also make it dashed border. So you can
We
make
cannot see the screen moving.
screen is not moving for you.
No. Somebody say can't even hear.
All right, 1 second. Let me just check. This is a new tool today. I have no clue what's going on with this new tool. Do you guys see now? Is it visible to
Yes.
everyone?
Yeah, we can hear now, Anubhav.
Okay, thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much. Okay, so what I did is I just went ahead and I just added a border property with 1 pixel solid black border, and this get me something like this. Oh wow. And then I can maybe just make it 10 pixel and you will see that it will become little thicker. That's the first property in the border itself. And then comes this dash border. So you can have dashed border. So you see this is how dashed border looks like. Amazing. And maybe I can go with dotted border and I can refresh and you see, wow, beautiful. And maybe finally the color is maybe red and you get beautiful Christmas lights. Yeah, awesome. Look at the Christmas lights out there. This is how people are making content on the internet just by doing style. Okay, just by applying CSS, they make this content like this. Awesome. I'm going to come back, switch it back to 1 pixel solid black. And that's how my border will look like. Oh wow, beautiful. And now maybe you want to change the background of this content to yellow. And let's do that. Oh, amazing. Look at that. And maybe I want to also get a border. Solid black. Oh wow. And let's make the width as same. For the title areas. And wow, look at these 3 boxes, how beautiful they look like, man. How beautiful, amazing. Let's change the background color. Oh my God, look at that. The beauty of this content. How fantastic. See, the CSS brings color and beautiness to the life. Just like humans, we have life without any goal, without any dream. It's like, no meaning. Similarly, in HTML, the CSS brings the real life to the content. Earlier, how it was looking, and today, look at that, how beautiful it looks. That's what the power of CSS, guys. Now, interesting. What I want to do is I want to place this box next to this box here. So I want basically that box to come here. Yeah, this is what I want, our CSS box to come here. So what I want is I want to tell the system, hey, if you find some space on the left hand side, you see this is left hand side, LHS, and this is right hand side, RHS. All right. So if you want this guy to be on the left hand side of the page, adjacent to HTML, so I'll say the moment first element ends to the left hand side of the page, I want to dock my CSS element. I want to dock my box over here. Everybody, are you clear? There's a lot of empty space. I want to fill this space with this box over here. Okay, that's what we want to achieve. How can we achieve that? So there is a property, ladies and gentlemen. The name of the property is called float property. FLOAT, float. And tell me which side you want to float. Left hand side of the page or right hand side of the page? Anybody? Which side you want to float? Just now I told you which side you want to float. Not right side, guys. It is right side with respect to the element if you look. But from the page perspective, look at from the page perspective. Look at from the page perspective. On the page perspective, don't look at element perspective, look at page perspective. On which side of the page you want your CSS box? Exactly. You want the CSS box on the left hand side of the page, adjacent to the HTML box, right? So that's what we have to do. So now we can go back and let's look at this whole box is encapsulated under this div. You see, this is one box, this second box, this third box. So you have three boxes here. So this time I'll apply at the complete box level. I'm going to come back and I say complete box, please float on the left side of the page. Everybody, is this clear to all of you? Are you clear what I did just now? You will see the impact of this now in a second when I refresh the page. But are you clear what I did for the whole box? I'm telling please float on the left hand side of the page. That's what I'm just telling it to the system. And I'm going to come back and refresh and watch out, the magic will happen. Oh my God, look at this. Fantastic. It is docking my CSS next to the HTML when there is an empty space on the page. But hey, hold on. It's unnecessarily docking my personal details also. I don't want this to dock at all. The moment it finds an empty space, it will try to put all the content and fill that empty space on the left hand side. But my manager don't want this guy to dock at all. We only want floating for the boxes, not for this gentleman. So what is happening is the moment you apply the box floating, the moment you apply float, all the element after the element on which you apply the float are floating actually. So we have to kill the floating after my boxes are complete. This is an activity you have to do manually. So I'm going to come back and I will say, hey, one empty div tag with a style. And we'll say, hey, please clear left. Are you all clear? How am I telling? After my boxes are complete, I don't want any floating. Don't float yourself. Let me tell you up to where you have to float. So I'm telling the system, please don't float once my boxes are complete, because system has a tendency to float by itself always. Okay, so that's the reason we are telling the system don't float. So we applied an internal style with the empty div element, nothing, just a placeholder, which is just clearing the float after the boxes are complete. Okay, now I'm going to go back and refresh and you will see the personal detail at least not floating now. Okay, fantastic. But now watch out, my other elements are floating. So I can just make my screen width little higher and it will automatically float my JS. When I make my screen width a little lower, it is automatically floating my JS down. That's the beauty. So it's automatically adjusting my content based on the width on the screen. Look at that. Automatic adjustment of your content based on screen width. Who will tell me in real life? Who will tell me in real life where do you find different screen widths? Where do you find different screen widths? Where do you find different screen widths in real life? Perfect answer. Vikram has got fastest and correct answer in mobile phones, in tablets, and on desktop and projectors. Exactly. You have smaller, bigger, and much bigger, larger screens on projectors, starting from 2.5, 3.5 inches mobile phones. Then you have 4 inches, 6 inches, 5.5 inches mobile phones. Then you have got tablets, and then you got desktops, and then finally you got projectors. So you have different widths of the screen. So do you see that my screen is changing automatically based on the screen width? Are you able to understand that my screen is adapting itself according to the mobile, tablet, and desktop? If it gets more width, it will put them correctly. Are you all clear? Is this clear, everybody, that this is one single property which helps you to adapt your screen automatically according to the device? Exactly. And that's the float property, my friends. That's the float property. Let me go back and now introduce you another powerful interview question, 100% interview question. By any chance, if I am your interviewer, 100% interview question, 100% interview question. What is responsive web design? Now, most of the people who has lack of knowledge and lack of understanding and lack of IQ, easily they will get trapped. They will say responsive web design is something which is faster. Fast. It's a fast. I took an interview for a person from Chennai. I said, what is responsive web design? And he said, sir, responsive web design is very fast, sir. Why very fast? I say, tell me what is fast and what is slow. How do you define what is the measure you take for the fast? Sir, it's very fast. When you open it's very fast, sir. It's not slow, sir. It's very fast. When you open, sir, in a different device, it's very fast. He was not able to defend his answer. Immediately, I decided to throw him out of interview. I just asked through 2-3 more questions, and then I have not asked for the question because I don't like giving me shit in the interview. Interviewer is more smarter than you. He's or she's asking you the question which they already know the answer, and giving something not relevant is not going to help in interview. Be honest in interviews. This is one reason why we not crack interviews, because we are not honest. You need to understand interview is a conversation. It's a conversation. It is not a process of judging you. It's a process which is called conversation. At the end of the conversation, they will decide whether you're fitting for the work or not. Sometimes your honesty will safeguard you. I still remember, I'm sure all of you have seen that movie 3 Idiots, where this guy Raju Rastogi jumps from the hostel building, and he being very honest in his company interview, though he cannot answer any question, but he being very honest. I jumped up from my hostel building, and then I got multiple factions. That's the day I decided what I want to do with my life. And I will stop begging in front of God that give me this, give me that. Stop being so superstitious anymore, and I will just be myself. This is my confidence. And Raju Rastogi finally gets selected because of his honesty. So sometimes it's not just about what you know. It is about being honest. Be honest to yourself. You can crack any interview. There will be companies who are ready to hire you. You need to be honest to yourself. You need to have that self-confidence. And of course, skill set is extremely important. And the will set is also equally important. Will set to learn new things. That's extremely important in today's world for survival. It doesn't matter what you know. What matters is, are you willing to know new things? This is my funda of rule. And I have, in fact, taken many people going beyond the boundaries. They had no clue about ABAP. They had no clue about UI5, but they had this extremely high susceptibility to learn new things. And this is what I see them. And even their technical score is not good. Still, I propose to select them to my management. That's again to the next round. But still, I qualify for those people who are honest and who show me some passion and seriousness about their career. That is what I look into a candidate. So it doesn't matter even you not give me an answer for responsive web design, still you have a chance to get selected with me. But if, interestingly, other places it won't happen. So you need to answer it correct. Responsive web design, a web design which adapts itself according to the device automatically. Yeah, this is what responsive web design. And now taking you back to little bit in history in our demo session where I told you what is UI5 is meant for. UI5 is a framework to develop responsive web application. Are you clear? This was already told to all of you in the demo session. I'm not sure how many of you making the notes. If you are making the notes by now, you will remember that this is what I taught you in the demo class. See guys, I will go back and keep giving you references like this because humans are tend to forget. You will not remember what you eat in last night dinner, right? How will you remember these concepts if you are not making notes? I humbly urge you again, if you want to take best out of this training, buy a notebook and pen, start making notes. And trust me, when people see you making notes, when your wife, your friend, they will see you working so hard, they will learn from you. They will also get inspired from you. I've seen one of my students have told me, Anubhav, I listen to you every day. The classes, LTs 2-3 times after the class is complete, I make notes. And this is what my child have seen me. And my child suddenly got the same tendency developed in himself. He's also reading and studying hard. Because what will the child will do the way the mothers and fathers will behave. They will see, they are surrounded by you all the day. What they will do is what they see at home. And if you as a dad is studying hard, working hard, other people nearby you get inspired with that. And trust me, it brings a lot of change to your personal life as well, the way you look at things, and you will build a lot of amazing confidence. So responsive web design, interview question, web design which adapts itself according to the device automatically. Now coming back, little bit of catch here. You see almost these are touching each other. Our boxes, they're almost touching each other. There's no spacing between them. So for that, let me introduce the next interview question. Very powerful. Every interview, if the interviewer goes to the CSS, this is 100% question. Box model in CSS. What is box model in CSS? Let me draw down an HTML element over here. Just quickly going back and change the format shape, and we'll change it to fill no. Oops. So sorry. Just change it to no fill, and I'm just going to go to line and increase the line width to 30. So let's imagine this is your HTML element. So this is the actual element inside over here. And then you have something called as a border. This is our border. This is our element. So now what's happening is I'm going to have consecutive elements like this. This is what we have today, right now, just now in the system. We have two boxes together. Yeah. And they're almost touching their border. This is how the situation is currently for us. So CSS box model explains you about how the elements are positioned relatively and relative to their border. So CSS box model allows us to position elements next to each other relatively and with respect to their borders. Watch out, how does this happen? So now you have this setup currently. So what you see here is this, the difference between these two, this guy, this gentleman here, the spacing between two consecutive elements, and also the spacing between border and the actual element space. So both of these things are important. So watch out. You see, first of all, these two elements are touching each other. Yeah. This is a space between two different elements. So this is the space I'm talking about. What is this space called? This space is known as margin. Okay. What is it known as? It's known as margin space. Remember guys, don't forget, don't get confused. It's called margin. This is called margin space between two consecutive elements. It's called margin. And this space between the border and the element content, this space is known as padding space. What is it known as? It's known as padding space. And this thing is called CSS box model. Yaad rakhoge ki nahi rakhoge? Promise me you will never forget CSS box model. Everybody, promise me you will never let me underestimate yourself. You are Anubhav's student. Trust me, my students are everywhere in the world and they are rocking. Trust me, believe me, if you read these things properly and study them properly, nobody can stop you. You will become a champion in SAP UI5 by the end of this course. Nobody even can in your company close to you. Nobody can come close to you. You will become a champion. Never forget these two things, margin and padding. Let me go back. So tell me, you will only tell me the answer. If I want to bring some space between these boxes coming next to each other, what do I do? Tell me, what do I do to bring space between these two boxes? Perfect answer. Yes, you are yourself able to answer that. Yes, exactly. It's margin. So let's go back and I'm going to come back and I'll say, hey, between these boxes, please get me a margin of 5 pixels. And watch out, refresh the page. Voila, there you go. When you do things right, output is bound to come. Don't run behind output. Output is just a byproduct. It's just a byproduct. What happens? We as a developer, we think about output first and then we start coding, right? Incorrect approach. We are going bottom up. No, never, never. Output is just a byproduct. When you do things right, output is bound to come. Nobody can stop your output. It will come. Now you see almost this HTML stands for this much is also touching my border. Kya karu main? What do I do to bring little bit space between the content and the border? Perfect. Let's add a padding. So I'm going to go back and add a padding. And I'll say, please add a padding of 5 pixel. And for this gentleman also, I'll go ahead and add a padding of 5 pixel. Watch out. Refresh the page. Voila, you can see now got a little bit of padding over here in this content and how beautiful your boxes will look like. They're responsive. When you increase the screen width, they'll increase accordingly. When you reduce it, they will adjust automatically. That's the mobile versus desktop versus tablet CSS box model, dear friends. This is an amazing, phenomenal class on cascading style sheet. I hope you understand the power of CSS. The last thing, if I want to do automatic padding, move this thing in the middle. You can also do that. It's called auto padding, and this property is called text hyphen. I forgot the property name. You can check the CSS, but let me recall. What is it? It's called text align. Yes, you are right. Text align property, and this is called center. And I'm going to save this. Watch out, it'll do automatic padding. It'll get it in the middle. I'm going to refresh. And wow, there you go. How beautiful it looks, guys. This is perfect example of CSS. I hope you were able to understand all these concepts which we learned. There's one more chapter on CSS which is pending. We'll start that tomorrow. We'll see styling for table, creating fully styled toolbar, and also pseudo classes. Very powerful. We'll also talk about external CSS in the next class. I'm done with today's session. I hope you all enjoyed it. Sorry for initial hiccups, kind of new tool we are using today. Now your questions one by one. I will take up first from the chat window. So the first question coming from Arijit in the chat window. Is it through the internal style declaration, can we make changes class ID tag at same time? Or do we have to make a block of code for class ID and tag? So trust me, you can make changes based on anything. But what takes more precedence is what was applied at the end. As I mentioned, you cannot apply, you can apply the CSS on the tag level or on the class level and the ID level. ID will take high precedence. That effect will actually be visible to the user. Okay. If ID level style is not there, then it'll go to the class level. If that is not there, it'll go to the tag level. So you can apply, but it will not be visible because the precedence level, only one of them will be visible. Like if I apply class level color as red and ID level color as blue. So blue will take precedence. It will not be a mix of red and blue. It will never happen. Okay. It will take one of them as a precedence. How duplicate style can affect with the style? Nothing will affect. Only one of them, which is high precedence, will take its impact. It will not affect you. I can write, more box style. So let me just do that. No problem. I can say this box and I can say box margin as 20 pixels. Okay. And I will say don't float. So the last one, ye wala, is because when the computer is scanning it from top to bottom, this will take more precedence other than this one, because first this one comes, then this one gets executed. So second one should take more precedence. I'm going to refresh and you see it's still the same. though I have duplicate, but it will still use the last one. And if I would have had it at the ID level, that would have taken more precedence. So you can write the code, but you are just wasting your time by writing multiple things, same time again and again, same code, but that won't help you. What will help you is just have a plan in your mind, what you want to achieve based on requirement, and then you can accordingly apply the style. Is float property making the application responsive at the moment? Yes, exactly, Shekhar. That's the right understanding. Float property got you the life of bringing it. It plays a very important role. Of course, we have a lot of other things like padding and the margin space, which has got me a little bit more